Right guys, for the second day consecutive, Ukraine launches the strike on the Russian infrastructure in Crimea. This is again built back airfield. It just wants to appear in my videos daily, and yes, we have something to say. This attack was more massive compared to the previous one, because not just Belbek airfield was targeted, kabooms were heard in Sevastopol, Simferopol, Gvardeyska airfield, and also Balaklava, the base for the Russian submarines, which according to the rumors is now active again. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine, because Crimea is also Ukraine. The Russian authorities reported not just about the ATACMS missile strikes, but also about Storm Shadow or Scalp cruise missiles, which were spotted again in Crimea, and definitely Russia used their air defense systems. Let's listen to this video. So there was the air explosion in the skies, some of the sound on the background. The sound looks like a jet engine, so probably Russia launched their aviation, or probably it's the sound of the engine of the cruise missile. And those are the remains from the yesterday's strike on the Russian Belbek airfield, and those are the small cluster shells. 100% it was ATACMS, and some of those shells didn't explode. Around 20% from all of those small grenades usually do not explode. And here what those grenades do to the apron. Those photos, by the way, were presented by the Russian side. And also those photos we may see Russian trikes kaputted very close to Belbek airfield. I believe it is some sort of the radar of the S-400 system, or it is the S-350 system itself. So this strike or this one. Russians still haven't shown fully what was targeted yesterday, but according to the data which comes from the Russian side, 3 of the aircraft were significantly damaged. We are speaking about Su-27, Sukhoi 27 fighter jets. One MiG-31K, which is the launcher for the Russian Kinjal missiles, 2 of the launchers of S-400 systems, and the radar for them. So probably it is this truck. However, judging on those photos, we may still confirm the loss of 2 of the trucks. That's it. And for sure, at least one of those belongs to the Russian S-400 or S-350 air defense system. The rest of the losses I personally cannot confirm without any photos or at least satellite images. We are still waiting for them, but probably there will be more losses, because today again Ukraine launched one more attack, as you already know. One more image of the night attack on Belbek airfield, where also the fuel storage went on fire, creating this big smoke cloud. Let's check out the map to see what was targeted today. So Belbek, you probably already know this airfield. The Balaklava Russian submarine base is over here, and Russia restored its operation. After the Soviet Union collapsed, this base was abandoned. In Simferopol, the biggest city of Ukraine, there is the Gvardeyska airfield, so here we go with it. It also was targeted, but we don't have any sort of the images, just locals reporting the local chats that they heard loud kabooms. And there is the commercial airfield very close to the military one. I've flown to Simferopol many of the times before Russia occupied Crimea. Some say that Jankoy also was targeted. It's the big Russian hub with military base against the airfield, but I wasn't able to find any proofs about the strike. I checked the local groups and they didn't report anything. As you may see, Ukraine continued to use the Western-made weaponry to target, as Russia thinks their territory, well, at least they annexed Crimea, they put it into their constitution, so for Russia it shouldn't be any sort of the difference between Crimea and Belgorod Oblast, but they're okay if Ukraine uses ATACMS. But at the same time, they start to blackmail Ukraine and our Western allies if Ukraine says that we're gonna use ATACMS on Russian bases in Belgorod Oblast or in Kursk Oblast, because Russia has their bases out there from which they strike Ukraine. And probably Ukraine obtained some of the green light from the United States officials, because Blinken said that they're not really against those strikes, but they're not really supporting those strikes. They think that Ukraine should decide what to do with the Western-made weaponry, because it's up to Ukraine to defend its territory using all of the necessary tools. Well, before the United States officials thought differently. So now they give more freedom to Ukrainian army to operate with that weaponry, and it is awesome. Probably Ukraine might stop the Russian army advancements by targeting their military bases on the Russian territory. That's good news. My friends, if you want to support the job that I do on YouTube daily, you may join my Patreon. You may find the link for it in the video description just below. Thank you so much for your kind support. Alright, probably the biggest news for today that the Prime Minister of Slovakia, Fico, was shot 3 of the times by attackers. So 3 ranami. So 3 bullets, it's been confirmed, went into the body of Fico, and he was delivered urgently to the local hospital where he is ongoing through the special surgeries. As the local journalists report, one of the bullets went into his abdominal part of the body, hitting some of the very important organs, and they say that Fico is in a critical state. We have the same information published on the official page of Fico. Right, here we go with the page. He received numerous of the injuries and now in a life-threatening condition. And there was the video itself published on internet. Sorry guys, I cannot show you it on this platform, just this screenshot, but I post that stuff on my Telegram channel, so you may check it out using my personal link in the video description just below, where you may find my Telegram group. It's for free and will give you more updates about the situation in Ukraine, and not only. If you want to hear my personal opinion about this accident, yes, probably you know that Fico is not really a Ukrainian supporter. He stops any sort of the military supplies to Ukraine. He follows some of the Russian narratives, but still he is the elected leader of the country, and definitely people elected his party in approved democratic elections. So I'm not happy about this event. It's too much, and this stuff shouldn't be happening in Europe. Even though I personally do not like Fico, actually I hate him, but I wish him a fast recovery. And really in Slovakia, Fico is not a dictator. They may put the other prime minister. This party, his particular party, will have majority according to the polls, so it's not a big difference. The general policy of the country has no any perspectives to change with Fico or without Fico, unlike in Hungary, where democracy is under the huge question, at least according to the European Commission. By the way, Zelensky also condemned this act of violence against the neighboring partner state and the head of the government. So I think that we should follow this vector. We are not barbarians, but there are some of the circumstances where this scenario actually would be preferable, but not in Slovakia, rather than in Russia. The attack was conducted by this guy. His name is Juraj, and he's some sort of the writer in Slovakia. And also, according to the information from one of the Hungarian investigative journalists, Juraj actually participated in the pro-Russian Slovakian party, which actually was reformed and collapsed in 2022. Police captured this man and asked him why he performed this act of violence, and Juraj said that he disagrees with Fico's policy. Well, kind of a strange response, and he will probably spend the rest of his life in prison after all. Alright, let's review the military map. For the last day there were no huge changes, as you can see. In Vovchansk, for sure, Russia is now stopped entering the city. They occupied just this street and the small one, that's it. The small groups of the Russian soldiers sometimes enter the other streets and districts of the city, but they are now under the huge fire by Ukrainian army, because Ukraine sent some of the reinforcements, and according to Ukrainian officials and Zelensky himself, Ukraine is now quite successful in repelling the Russian attacks, and we may see it with a recent update. Definitely Russia bogged down a little in Kharkiv Oblast. Plus today many of the prisoners were captured. I published those kind of the videos on my Telegram. The heavy fights are now ongoing in Lyboke. There, Ukraine was successful in advancing forward and pushing Russians out from few of the streets, also imprisoning many of the Russian soldiers. It means that Russian army is unable to achieve their goal in such a short time period. I must say that our guys, our soldiers in Kharkivsk region are true heroes. Why? Because mainly defense lines were not finished in this area of defense. We are speaking about 10 kilometers away from the front lines, and today the deep state military map source publishes again the information about neglectness of the local authorities who let it to happen. I call them clowns. So Deep State shared it, and I also shared it on my Telegram channel, and other Ukrainian media sources, independent sources, continue to spread this information that local officials just messed up with defending the Kharkiv region. Before we obtained the information even from President that everything is robust, Kharkiv is ready, but here you see that nothing is ready. Those trenches are not finished, those dots are not under the ground. And this situation happened not just yesterday. They start to build those in 2023, and still you see that nothing is finished. The Deep State team start to receive threats and accusations that they're working for Russia. By the way, me too, spreading some sort of the Russian propaganda. But no, my friends, we show the real problem, so we want officials who are responsible for that to be punished. And also we need this problem to be solved once and for all. There should be no any PR on the Ukrainian defense lines. Those should be just built and that's it. But here we may see incompetence, corruption, neglectness and other bad stuff of Ukrainian system. If we continue like that, Ukraine will never win. I hope that some of the officials from the United States of America, for example, will also point out and show those kind of the images to Zelensky, to his team, that guys, you're doing something interesting in Ukraine. Please make sure that the officials in the very important regions for defense are doing their job properly and spending the funds properly. Because after all, the lives of our soldiers depend on those trenches. And now our soldiers should perform heroic actions to stop the Russian offensive with heavy losses. Because, yeah, I already told you because of what. Guys, again, I'm telling you about the situation as it is. I'm not wearing the pink glasses, no. On this channel, I want to deliver you as truthful information as possible. Sometimes the news are negative and it is normal. I'm not one of those bloggers who always says that we are winning, Russians cannot fight. Well, maybe some of my videos were like that, but anyways, my friends, I try to give truth for you, even though you know that I support Ukraine. Alright, let's go to the other updates on the military map. This morning, pro-Russian channels and also pro-Russian military bloggers reported that Russians entered Robotyne and occupied it fully. I think that they're already taking Robotyne the third time in X and Facebook and also in Telegram, but actually it didn't happen like that. Russians definitely entered Robotyne and as usual were repelled with the Ukrainian counterattack. It's the third time at least like that for them in Robotyne. But where Russia has the success, we may admit it, is in Urozhaine, taking some part of the ground, but only with the help of the aviation gliding bombs, which they use massively on this small settlement. So Russia also activated in Starmayorsk, Urozhaine, their local forces. But it is early to say about their breakthrough on this direction. Krasnohorivka, it's not that really far away from Marinka. There Russia took just a couple of the buildings, that's it. They really slowed down in this town because it has many of the buildings, many of the streets. Nevertheless, they occupied already the vast part of Krasnohorivka. After that, they're gonna move west to Kurakhove. And Ukraine has some sort of the counterattack towards Bogdanov, trying to stop the Russian army advancement in Avdiivka direction. Nevertheless, today Russia took some sort of the ground. And now very close to Kalinovka village. Alright, the news which worry me the most. Russia sends their equipment to Belarus. We have this information from the Belarus opposition sources, and they rely on workers of the railway road of Belarus. They say that Russia tries to secretly deliver their tanks and armored vehicles to Belarus once again. Just to remind you, after Russia retreated from the Kiev Oblast, they sent all of their forces to the eastern side of Ukraine. So everything was taken out from Belarus, but now Russia might change their strategy. And there's the chance that they might strike Ukraine once again as it was in 2022. So we know the information that Russia created the group near Sumy, and in a few days there is a high chance for them to strike some of the settlements on Ukrainian territory, and they also sent, as we know, the reinforcements to Belarus. Maybe they want to create one more group near Kiev and attack Kievska Oblast from the north. So what's the idea of the Russian army? They want to spread Ukrainian army all around the front lines in Sumy region, again in Kiev, because Ukraine will send lots of the forces to protect the capital city, also Kharkiv and everything, and somewhere Russia might break Ukrainian defense after it's sending all the reinforcements to particular place, for example the eastern part of Ukraine, and there occupy the vast Ukrainian territories. They understand that Ukraine has much less resources compared to Russia. So Russia plays this long game exhausting Ukrainian army. Yes, they have many more losses compared to Ukraine, but nevertheless at the same time they have more resources. So they may allow those losses, but Ukraine not really. For now it's very complicated, but I'm sure that with the new military support Ukraine is able to defend its territory also in Sumy, in Kharkiv, everywhere, but in a coming couple of months. So Putin knows about that stuff. That is why this morning he proposed some sort of the peace negotiations with Ukraine on the current status quo, using the front line as the line between Russia and Ukraine, so the new border. Well, obviously it is a suicide scenario for Ukraine to negotiate about that. And remember, Russia put Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts in their constitution, so they will never stop until they occupy those oblasts at least. But we know that their goal is really just minimum goal to occupy Ukraine. The maximum goal is to advance even further to restore ex-Soviet Union. Yeah, not the Soviet Union with that Soviet name, no, just a new Great Russia with old borders. So all of the negotiations currently are not profitable for Ukraine because Russia will start attack Ukraine once again. But continuation of the current war for Ukraine is also not profitable, because in the coming years no one guarantees the military support for Ukrainian army from the western side. It was really hard to obtain the military support from the United States under Biden's administration, and we don't know what might happen in the future because the current military support is enough just for 1.5 years, something like that. And with the current war scale and tremendous losses, we understand that this situation may not continue like that forever. No, it should be stopped at some point. But how? Well, understanding the real politics, it's hard to say. But I know how it should be. All of the military support should be granted to Ukraine with the modern fighter jets, with everything, excluding nukes, obviously. Russia should be absolutely struggling under the sanctions. That is the only way for victory for Ukraine. And after Ukraine liberates all of its territories, it should be taken to NATO immediately. It is the only peace possible with the current Russian regime. Or the other variant is to collapse the Russian regime somehow, because it really brings the threat to the world, not just to Ukraine. Alright, so more of the good news are coming from Volchansk. Ukraine is able to target all the Russian vehicles which entered the city. Well, the bad news that Russians got rid of some of the minefields which were placed near the city, but now if they enter the city with their vehicles, immediately Ukrainian FPV drones just demolish them. The Russian dictator visits China today. He just arrived to Beijing and there will be the meeting with Chinese leader. Yeah, obviously China supports Russia in this war against Ukraine for now. China also looks at Taiwan to perform the same scenario, and I personally think that it's just a matter of time that China might do this act as Russia does in Ukraine. Well, my prediction that after this meeting, Putin and Xi will come out with their own peace deal initiative, which will be absolutely different with Zelensky peace deal initiative that will be discussed in Switzerland in 1 month. I predict that China will not visit the summit in Switzerland because by doing so, they are in some sort betraying Russia. So after this meeting, they will obviously have the alternate plan, which will not bring peace for Ukraine. No. For China, Ukraine is just one more province of Russia. We see it according to their attitude towards Ukraine. The New York Times came out with the article that the United States will also push the sides for the peace deal negotiations. Those might start in the coming months. The source says that they are planning to freeze the war according to the Korean scenario. But there was a civil war in Korea as far as I remember. Yes, there were some of the countries like United States and Soviet Union which supported their own sides, but in general the nature of the conflict was internal. Here, Ukraine was attacked by Russia. Plus, as I told you, Korean scenario is not possible because Russia will obviously want to occupy more of the Ukrainian territory in the coming years after the ceasefire. It is understandable. Russia will never stop until Ukraine is under their full influence. Well, we have already seen kind of the strange articles from the New York Times. I think this is not the exclusion. However, I do not exclude the peace deal with Russia. If Ukraine will be in lack of the military support, there will be no other chance for Ukraine to survive in this war. So the destiny of Ukraine really depends on our allies. Well, and I think that Ukrainian people will be definitely always in opposition to the Russian army, fighting with it with everything, but in that case, we'll have many more losses. Also, many things depend on who will be the next president of the United States. Today, Joe Biden called Donald Trump for debates. Donald Trump agreed for this proposal, so the first debates we should expect the next month, and the last debates before elections will be in September. So we'll see how it goes. Joe Biden says that Trump lost 2 times to him in 2020 during the debates. I watched one of those and definitely Joe Biden looked good. How he will perform this time in his age, we'll see. But during his speech in Congress, I think 2 months ago, he was quite energetic. Right, my friends, and now don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.